5, 4, 3, 2, 1. CTS podcast.
You hit record on the phone,
I
right?
did hit record on the phone.
Okay.
Awesome. I love when you talk about stuff after we start the podcast.
Okay. Welcome everyone to the CTS podcast. A lot of things happened this week.
Lots of things. We don't want to bury the lead, so we will start out with the big story. You know the one I'm talking about?
Yeah. So
The bill about USB-C chargers for... Oh, no, sorry. Were you thinking of a different one?
okay, now that we have Henry's bit out of the way, Trump was raided. They executed a search warrant at Mar-a-Lago.
Kind of crazy.
They were searching for top secret documents. In fact, they're above top secret classification. It's called special access. So they're meant to be viewed by like a handful of individuals at like secure government facilities. And they were just sitting in a safe at Mar-a-Lago.
At least they were in his safe.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be. Can you imagine? They're just like all over
Just
his desk.
on his coffee table. There's like rings, like water rings and stuff on the nuclear codes.
A bunch of FBI, to break down the story, a bunch of FBI agents on their way to execute the raid called the Secret Service and said, "Hey, we're coming. We have a search warrant. Here's the search warrant. We're coming to take all this stuff, and we're coming to raid the place." They get there, and Secret Service were the ones that notified staff that the FBI is coming to lurk around. I shouldn't even say lurk, but execute the search warrant. And they go in there. The staff contacts Donald Trump's son, I think Jared is his name. No,
Jared.
Eric.
Oh, Eric. Yeah, Eric Trump.
They contact Eric, who then contacts Trump and says they're at Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah.
They're looking through stuff. After the raid, about a week after, the search warrant was released by the DOJ, which shows what Trump is being investigated for, including espionage.
Isn't espionage like a super serious punishment if you get charged with like espionage?
It's like it's pretty bad. I think it's 5 years max sentence, but there was another charge that he got that was a 10 years max sentence.
I thought espionage was like way worse. It was like 20 years
It's
minimum.
usually associated with like treason.
Okay. It's the treason charge that you get. Like it's like automatic death penalty or something.
Yeah, espionage is losing or destroying classified documents. So it's really funny. Trump's defense here is that, and his lawyer's defense is, well, Trump declassified these documents even if he didn't say he declassified them. So even if he just thinks that the documents were declassified before he left office and no real action was taken, those documents are declassified because he was the president of the United States. And so all these people are saying, okay, well, if he declassified them,
I want to see
we
them.
can access them through the Freedom of Information Act, and you can just request it through the FBI. So a bunch of people have been requesting the documents through the Freedom of Information Act. And as a bit of an aside, of the documents it's being reported by the Washington Post that they contained nuclear information and information relevant to the president of France was all that was reported.
What does that mean? That feels like
information relevant to the president of France.
Like is like McDonald's order? Like what's information relevant to the president of France?
I don't know.
Like,
it's special access though.
Like
so
dirt on the president of France, or like
all we know is it's super highly classified.
To be fair, I bet almost every document that comes across like in front of the president is like highly classified. No matter how mundane it is, just because they don't want, like, I don't know. It seems like if it was something like ridiculously serious, they would have found out about it a lot earlier than.
Well, here's what I heard. I heard that the National Archives contacted the DOJ shortly after he left office and said, or shortly after they found the documents were missing and said, these documents are missing.
But when was that?
I don't have the exact timeline memorized, but the DOJ launched an investigation, got in contact with Trump, and tried to get these documents back. He wasn't cooperating with the investigation or something of that sort. And then they executed the search warrant. I tend to think they were pretty big because I don't see the DOJ risking this whole political conundrum for some non-essential documents. I would imagine that if the DOJ is raiding the home of a former president, there's probably something pretty big in there.
Yeah, I wonder. Yeah, it'd be interesting because you'd think the protocol for documents that are like that serious would be, we have like 10 people sitting here who all like back it up. Like we grab the documents, not, oh, go take it to your vacation home. It doesn't make sense to me that there's a scenario where Trump is like the final or any president is the final holder of the document. It seems like the kind of paper trail should be like, okay, it passes Trump's desk, but someone's responsible for it before and right after. It's weird that there could be a situation where he's just like, oh yeah, like here's these super important documents. I'm just going to toss them in my safe at wherever.
Well, the next question is he going to get charged? Because that would be the big ticket item. I think it's one thing to launch a search warrant at Mar-a-Lago, but charging him would be a whole different story.
There's no way he gets charged. There's not a chance.
Do you think he should?
I don't know. That's a weird one because it's not like espionage to me feels like, oh, you stole these documents, not, oh, you were the president of the United States. You had proper access to these documents and then just like didn't put them back in the right place. That feels not kind of in the spirit of what espionage is. Whereas, and especially if there's no evidence of like he was trying to use them. Because I'm sure like he had them, he saw them 18 months ago when he was still president, stuck them in his safe at Mar-a-Lago and hasn't thought about it since. So I don't know. It's a weird one.
Well, you would think, but the DOJ says that FBI agents came to Mar-a-Lago before and said, you have these documents, we want them, and Trump refused to cooperate with their investigation.
Yeah, I don't know. Because if it was that, I don't know. I don't know the timeline well enough to understand where that just doesn't make sense to me. Because if the DOJ knew he had them, why would they not get a search warrant then?
I don't think they knew that they had them. I think the National Archives went through and said these documents are missing. They reported it to the DOJ, who launched an investigation, got the search warrant signed by a judge. Because among the things that he's charged with is obstruction of justice, which to what I think is like, if you're going to raid someone's place and that's partially, and you're not planning on charging them, why even include obstruction of justice in there? I don't know. It's really weird. But when the search warrant was released, an inventory of the things that were taken was given. It was released to the public, and among those was special access documents, which are the acting president of the United States and like 3 other people have access to those.
Didn't something else, when they released that kind of list, didn't something else come out that they like took stuff that they weren't allowed to?
I don't know.
I thought I saw something on that, and it might have been like something Trump himself said, so it could have been not super accurate, but it was like there was stuff that they like didn't have the rights to take that they took that they're going to use to fight anything that comes down. I don't know. It's just a weird one to me because it's not, I can't imagine Trump was actively like, ooh, I'm going to hide these documents away in my safe and whatever. Doesn't feel like, I mean, it feels a lot like the kind of the other stuff about documents missing where he was just like, he was doing it like he does business stuff where you're like, most documents are fine to just like kind of forget about. Like you're not, it's not like the US thing where they kind of take every single document that a president has and save them. Like the National Archive has like pretty much every piece of paper that the president like uses. So I don't know.
But as you know, negligence is not a defense, right? So
No,
if they wanted to charge
I
him,
understand, but that doesn't feel like espionage to me. I don't understand how that fits under espionage, because espionage seemed like, my understanding is like willful, like you're trying to use this to kind of act against the government, not oh yeah, I was just using it. And I mean, in some sense, like, motive's part of charging somebody with something. I don't think that, I don't know, if your motive is I forgot, I think it's a lot weaker case than, or like I put it in my safe and didn't really think about it. I think it's a lot weaker case than, oh, I was actively trying to use these documents to like get one over on the government.
yeah, we'll see. I mean, I don't think the DOJ would have done it if it wasn't something big.
Yeah.
And I think if they charge him, it's gonna cause a whole conundrum of things.
Did you see the while we're still on this, did you see like Hillary Clinton like made like merchandise about her, like the email things, like the email stuff?
No.
It was like hats that were like find her emails or whatever, which is weird to me because it feels like, isn't that like a pretty similar situation?
A lot of conservatives are comparing the Hillary stuff to
But just, and maybe not so much to this one, but like there was the stuff that there were a little earlier that Trump had like shredded documents that then the National Archives had to go back and like piece together, like patch together to save, that weren't like anything super, like they weren't these classified documents or anything, but it's like, wasn't that kind of like the Hillary Clinton thing? Like she had a bunch of unimportant emails that got deleted that, I don't know.
Well, and then she lied about it, and
well, and it's a weird one to like, why call attention to it? I don't know if I would make the comparison, but you made the comparison.
Yeah.
Like making merchandise makes the comparison, and then you're like, it's just a weird one.
yeah. So we'll see how this thing shakes out. I think if he gets charged, I think he'd probably be found guilty. But I don't know if I don't think he'll be charged. I think the only reason I'm agreeing right now with what the DOJ did is because it just shows like no one's above the rule of law. If you break the law, even if you're a former president, you can be charged.
Yeah.
But in that same idea, you're opening the door for it. This is unprecedented, and you're opening the door for it. So if you're going to open the door for it, it has to be something really big. And if it's not something really big, you shouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that the DOJ, as soon as the investigation is done, needs to come out and say, look, these were, like, when we say special access, these were and they've already kind of done that. I mean, they've already alluded to the documents being extremely important to national security. And to be fair, if they're extremely important to national security, they should not be being kept at Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah.
Even if Trump was negligent in the way that he stored them.
Well, and it doesn't sound like he was negligent in the way he stored them so much as he just didn't turn them back in.
Yeah, but he was made aware that he had to, and he refused to.
I just don't understand the timeline. I don't know enough about this.
So before they raided his house, FBI agents came to Mar-a-Lago and said, you need to give these back to us. He refused, and they went and got a search warrant and took them.
Yeah, I just like, the FBI agents came up to like what was if they go, okay, here's the list of documents, here's the list of documents we need back, like give us these documents. If that was the case, then yeah, for sure. But I think there's a difference between that and if they went, hey, we think there's a chance these documents are here, like let us kind of basically search the entire house. I think there's a difference between those two scenarios.
Yeah, maybe. They did find the documents, though, right? So they were there, and they were in the safe.
Yeah, but I think there's a difference between, hey, we think there might be documents here, and, okay, document 19C-A and 19C-B are here. We need you to give us those documents, as opposed to, because I can't imagine, like, all of the documents are there. Like, it doesn't seem like, yeah, I guess I just feel like there's a difference between those two situations, in that I mean, Trump's probably in his like document safe at Mar-a-Lago has like hundreds, if not thousands, of pages worth of business stuff and all that, where he's like, well, I don't want you to just come like take all my stuff. And whether that's like right or wrong for him to think that, I think it's a different situation than, hey, we need these two specific documents and we know they're here, like give it to us. So I just don't know exactly how it worked out.
Yeah. I think that's the big sort of deal that happened. Pelosi went to Taiwan. China has been launching missiles and military drills in the Strait of, what is it?
I think it's just Taiwan, straight, like
The Taiwan Strait.
or something like that.
The space between Taiwan and China has a name,
Yeah.
regardless. China released a white paper on what Taiwan reunification would look like. It would be a one China, two. What do they call it? The one China, two nation policy, or one China, two systems, or something like that. Where Taiwan would be able to essentially keep their capitalist form of economy. But we've seen what happened to Hong Kong. So, I mean, there were protests in Hong Kong, and China went in and just squashed those.
The deal, yeah, the white paper was like pretty kind of crazy one-sided, like wrote in basically to the extent that China was like, well, you can do that, but then if we don't like anything you're doing, we reserve the right to come in and completely take over. Like even worse than Hong Kong, where it's not like they're just stopping protests. It's like, well, if the government doesn't like it, we're just like basically taking over.
So I don't understand the U.S.'s position on it. It seems so bizarre and ridiculous to me that they want to maintain the status quo. Pelosi goes on her own will to Taiwan as an official visit of the Speaker of the House. The United States doesn't stop her from going. China makes all of these threats that they don't carry out. And then as Pelosi is in Taiwan, the director of national security, or it might be, I think it is the director of national security, is essentially being asked, or maybe it's the director of national defense, is being asked, does this change anything? He says, no, we still hold to the, one China, two system policy. And we maintain that there needs to be Taiwan, we're not going to offer any input on that. And then you have, on the other hand, Biden saying that we'll go to war if China attacks Taiwan. It's just bizarre. It's like, you pick a side. You can't just sit in the middle and say we want to maintain the status quo. Taiwan is part. They don't recognize Taiwan as a country, but they say if China attacks Taiwan or attempts to reunify, we're going to step in and defend Taiwan. I don't understand it. It's pick a side, right? I mean, if you're going to step in and defend Taiwan, say that you recognize Taiwan as a country, and argue for their admission into the United Nations and take all these steps.
I think it's a weird one that it's like up until this point, before, like, it's a tricky one where until China like does something concrete, it's like, is it maybe the kind of calculus on it is it worth antagonizing China that much to be like, hey, Taiwan's a country? Or if you're like, okay, we can get away with functionally recognizing Taiwan as a separate country and we just don't have to say it, and China will be like, deal with it.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm fine with that. But it's the fact that Pelosi is like making these official visits to Taiwan.
So that one's weird. And that's what, like, I think I said that. I think we talked about this when it kind of happened off the podcast, but where it's like, it feels like pretty flagrantly like in China's face for no benefit. Like I don't understand what the benefit. And then once she announces it and China goes, like if you go to Taiwan, like there's going to be consequences, then you have to go because you can't kind of back down to China like that on something like this. But when you are to even plan it and announce it feels a little bit like a slap in the face to China for no reason.
Which, like I said, I don't care. I mean, we talked about this off the podcast, but in my opinion, Pelosi made the trip to Taiwan conveniently at the same time that all of these allegations about insider trading from Congress were going on. I mean, she bought all of these NVIDIA stocks right before the chips bill passed, and then before the chips bill passed, she sold them at a severe loss after her trading history was uncovered.
Well,
and then she announces this unplanned trip to Taiwan while all of this focus is on her trading, and then the media just kind of lets it go. So I'm just saying it's really, really convenient timing, this trip to Taiwan, and how it's taken all the attention off this. It's insider trading. What she was doing was insider trading.
I saw something that was like her husband there was some stock that they were about to pass a bill that was going to like tank the stock, and he sold something like $5 million worth of shares in the thing, in whatever company it was, like a day before this bill becomes public. And somebody a few days later asks her, do you ever discuss things with your husband about policy and what's upcoming that informs his kind of stock trading or whatever, or his investments? And she goes, no, like, why would you even ask that?
And then leaves. Yeah, I mean, they just need to ban trading for Congress members.
Well, and even if you just ban, like, you shouldn't be able to buy a stock in a specific like, I don't know that you can completely ban all or should completely ban any investment. Feels difficult because they're involved in so much that it's, and maybe you limit it or limit the amount you can. I don't know if completely banning it is the right option, but to go, okay, we are going to make a bill that awards like a contract to this like company or greatly benefits this company, and I know about that before it becomes public, and so I trade stocks, which is like allowed right now. They're kind of allowed to do it. Like that needs to go away. So if you go, okay, you can invest in like these big mutual funds and people can like scrutinize the mutual funds, but you don't get the benefit of this one. Like I get to invest $5 million in a company because I know the stock's going to jump in a week. You shouldn't be allowed to do that.
Yeah, I could certainly see that. In California, school lunches were made free for all students, which is a good thing. California's kind of been rocking and rolling, dude. Economically,
really?
for how much crap we've given California and people in general give California, they had a $100 billion budget surplus, and with that, they essentially invested into all of these different sources, including giving kids free meals and all of this stuff. So, and they just passed, Medicare for all, basically, for in state for Californians. And, they have really good, state disability programs. There's a lot of good things coming out of California. And I think that it's setting Newsom up to win the presidential nomination for the Dems, which we've talked about. DeSantis certainly seems to position himself that way too.
Especially after, because we were talking about Newsom like running ads in Florida, like anti-DeSantis ads in Florida.
He's been doing more of them too. It's been more than one.
Right? There's no...
Well, he's not even campaigning for governor. He's going to be campaigning. And the thing is, he has no real competition from the Dems, right? I mean, he has maybe Pete Buttigieg, Elizabeth Warren you can throw in there.
Cory Booker runs again.
He'll never be president.
I'm sure Kamala Harris runs, probably isn't much competition.
You don't think she's self-aware that her poll numbers are just
she for sure
atrocious?
runs. She 100% runs.
Why? Just she's such an egomaniac, or what?
Well, I don't know. I think it set a bad precedent probably for Democrats to be like, if you're, I don't know, I think to not run. If you're the vice president, like we made that bad a decision as the Democratic Party to have you as the vice president,
Just to go
that
away.
you can't even run anymore. I think especially right at the start. I mean, 1 million people run. Like those first debates after like the field's been narrowed down and not everybody gets to go to the debates. There's still like 20 people at some of those debates.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be a lot of fun to watch. I think it's tough. If you were to ask me today, who would you vote for, Newsom or DeSantis, I don't know who I'd vote for. And I am as liberal as they come. But if you were to, me and you were talking about this, if you were to tell me today, vote Biden or DeSantis, I would probably vote DeSantis.
Well, I don't know. The Newsom and DeSantis ones feel so, for one, they feel like basically the same people for each party. Like Newsom is to the Democratic Party what DeSantis is to the Republican Party. And neither feel like awesome options.
No.
Which I guess you're kind of always going to get in
But I do think both of them would make better presidents than Biden. Correct?
Biden and Trump.
Oh, for sure. And that's another
Definitely.
thing. That's another thing is if Biden runs against Trump, both of those who get the nomination, I'm not voting for either of them. If Biden runs against DeSantis, I'm voting for DeSantis. If Newsom runs against DeSantis, which I think is going to end up being what it is, I'd probably vote for Newsom. But I would probably actually really keep an open mind to both parties' sort of ideas because I don't know. I actually think DeSantis would probably make a good president. I think he's authoritative. I think he's well put together. I think he's done a lot of really good stuff in Florida. Even putting aside the fact that he's a Republican, you can look at the stuff he's done in Florida, and there are a lot of really good things that he's done in Florida. Economically, I mean, even throughout all the COVID stuff. And Newsom, you have, all of this stuff he's done economically in California. It'd be a pretty tight race, I think.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see who could. I mean, because I think there's a lot of people that don't like Newsom, like even among the Democratic Party, like Democrat voters. But I also think the same's true for DeSantis for Republicans. So it's this weird, like, who can win over as much of the. And it's almost kind of the extreme ends of either their parties. Like, I think the more moderate people in either party are kind of, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. And they're both, I mean, Newsom's not super young, but they're both younger than Trump and Biden, which would be nice.
Yeah. There is talk that a Buttigieg AOC bill, ticket, but I wouldn't vote for that. I would never vote for AOC.
What a crazy pedigree there. Like a representative from New York and
The Secretary of the Department of Transportation
is not a super hard-hitting ticket. Like you've got like most of the time you've got like vice president, governor, senator, like even like long-standing representatives, but AOC hasn't been a representative for that long.
I can't think of the last time a congressman won or was on the winning ticket of a presidential run. I can't think of.
Because Pence was a senator.
Before that, you had Obama and Biden.
Obama was
senators.
Was Obama a senator?
When he was elected, he was a senator.
Okay. Did he start in the House?
Maybe. A lot of senators start in the House. Before that, you had Bush, who was a governor. His VP was Dick Cheney, who was a representative, I think, actually.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I think so. I think Dick Cheney was in Congress. I don't remember. Anyways, but But yeah, we'll see how it goes. It'll be interesting.
It'll be because that stuff has to start heating up soon. Like they're probably after.
So we've got, when are the elections again? November what?
I can't remember the exact day.
We got a year, a little bit over a year, till we got a new president. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait, no, 2 years.
2 years, yeah.
Yeah, 2 years.
I was gonna say, but you probably start. I mean, heating up like at least a year before, if not longer than that. So, I mean, because primary campaigning has to start. What does it? It probably starts the summer before. This not like 5 months before the election, but you probably get into it close to 18 months before. So people have to start announcing, or at least start organizing things. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see, and it's a weird kind of. It's been a while since, I guess, like 2016, right, when both parties were running kind of all out. Like no one. This is a weird one because you got Trump 4 years, but then Trump had the Republican nomination, but Biden only 4 years, but he's gonna get. I don't think he runs again as like the uncontested Democratic nomination. So you've got kind of everybody has a shot at it.
It'd be insane if Biden runs again. Because
he doesn't win that nomination, I don't think.
I think the Dems would back him.
You think?
Yeah, I think the Dems would back him.
But if they did, because like last time with Trump in 2020, there wasn't like primaries. It was just like Trump's running again. Like, do you think the Dems would do that with Biden if he was like, I want to run again? They'd just ship him straight through. This is who we're putting out.
I think they would do it, even with the knowledge that if DeSantis runs, he would win. I think the Dems
just
feel
about anybody, I think, against Biden wins.
If Trump goes against him, I think it's close. I don't know. The polling right now, from what I've seen, is like 50-50, and it's probably going to stay 50-50 all the way up until Election Day. But if it was Trump versus Biden, I think if DeSantis runs against Biden, I think DeSantis sweeps.
Yeah, it seems like I can't imagine they do it. I mean, he's old. Like he's like whatever you think about, like kind of what, like where he's at, like mentally, like he's objectively very old.
Well, yeah, and I think a
so
lot
will
of
Trump
Dems
by then.
A lot of Dems in Congress refuse to admit it, but a lot of Democrats that you just talked to are like, yeah, the guy's getting old. There are parts of his cognitive function that are not all there. You can just objectively see that. I mean, the guy struggles to give speeches. He's not witty. He struggles to form complete sentences at times.
Well, there was the teleprompter thing a couple weeks ago where they have like the cues like in parentheses on teleprompters. It's like repeat for emphasis or whatever.
Yeah.
And he like read that off. He's like
Repeat
saying
for
this
emphasis.
thing, repeat for emphasis. And then what was it like last week that there was like the Chuck Schumer thing where he like shakes hands with Schumer. And then Schumer like shake hands with a couple other people, and Biden just like sticks his hand back out and like.
That's what I'm saying.
It's weird stuff. I don't know. I feel like, it'll be interesting to see where it goes.
All right,
Let's call this one
up? CTS Podcast, episode 59.